The 15-Point Plan is part of the Win, Make, Give podcast network.
Welcome back to another episode of the 15-Point Plan podcast. My name is Ryan Greigg, and as always, I am here with my co-host Jacqueline Smith. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we are super excited because we've got a bit of a series over these next couple of episodes. We are going to dive into each one of the points and what each one of the points means to us as a host. Today, you're going to hear from Jacqueline and what each point means to her. And the next episode, you're going to hear from me and what each point means to me. Then we've got some guests that are going to join us, some 15-Point Plan followers that have been using the plan for quite some time. Maybe they've used it for years, maybe they've used it on and off, but you're going to hear from them on the points that are working for them and what they're doing to get each one of those points. So that if you're new to the 15-Point Plan, you've got some idea how you can check off each one of those points. And if you are not new and you've been doing it for a while, maybe you're like me and you could use a refresh. Maybe it's time to switch it up a little bit. So the goal behind this episode today is to give you some more energy, to reduce your stress level by going through each one of those points and giving you some ideas on specifically how Jacqueline gets that point. So, Jacqueline.
Hello.
We got 15 points to cover today. And as always in preparation, it's a beautiful day here in the Northwest and the sun is out, summertime. We are both feeling pretty darn good right now. We've been checking these points off, but I've been excited to hear from you because every episode, to be honest, I learn from you. And I would love to know what each one of these points means to you. So let's just get into it. Let's start with the first point, goals. Jacqueline, tell us how you check off that point every day.
Every day, I actually learned this from a friend of mine. Her name's Sylvia. So if she's listening, hi, Sylvia. But she has taught me this. She writes her goals every single day. She writes them out. She'll write it 10 times. She says it as an affirmation. It doesn't take very long. So I write out my goals every single morning.
How long does that take, you said?
It literally takes me like 2 minutes. I'll write it in my phone or in a notebook, depending on where I am physically. Yeah.
Can you share with the listeners what categories those goals fall into?
Well, I write out my goals for my health. It really, that part will fluctuate depending on what I'm really focused on. But I will write out, if it's a business goal, a finance goal, health goal, relationship goal, and I just write them down. And I notice, so part of why I do that is part of my mindfulness practice, because I notice how I feel when I'm writing it down or saying it that day. So it's a way for me to know how is my relationship and my outlook and my mindset around those goals, because then that gives me information on maybe what I need to spend some other time on. Like if I'm feeling like I have intrusive thoughts that, oh, that goal, you're not going to do that, or you can't achieve that, or, then I spend some time with myself on that. So it's part of my mindfulness practice even to write out my goals. So I get 2 points there.
Super smart. And I think it's important that you mentioned that they fluctuate, that sometimes we got to pour into our business a little bit more. And so another part of our life might take a backseat for a time. So your goals might fluctuate a little bit depending on the season of your life. Super important for our listeners to remember. Yep. Okay. Point number 2, movement. How are you getting that movement, Jacqueline?
Yeah, for me right now, I have a plan where I do my tonal, which is an at-home, I do strength training on my tonal, but I was realizing that I was going hiking with my team and I was feeling winded and that I need to really get my cardio going. And I used to like, jogging here and there. I have been out of it for a really long time. So I'm doing Peloton program called You Can Run. And so right now I do need to get my point. I have to do 30 minutes of movement. So it can be the running program that I'm doing, which is only a couple days a week. It can be the tonal. And if I do neither of those things, then it is a walk around the trails by my house for 30 minutes. Yeah.
So roughly 30 minutes of movement is what you're defining as movement. And some days you're going harder, some days we're recovering and we're just going for a walk.
Yeah. And it's like trails. So there's some hills and, so your heart rate gets up a little bit and stuff like that. But, and often I'll do more than 30 minutes. It's just that I have to do a minimum of 30 minutes to get the
Makes
point.
sense.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. 30 minutes equals the point for movement. How about hydration? How do you know you're hydrated?
Yes. So I'm really bad because I'm from Canada at like, I don't know the metrics, but I think it's a gallon. I have this water bottle and I have to have 4 of them throughout the day. So I
Yes.
usually have a whole one when I'm working out. So, right, I finish that before I even leave the house. And then I'll have one, in the whole morning, and then I have one in the afternoon, and then I'll have one in the late afternoon, evening. So 4 of those is how I get my hydration point.
Pretty easy. And if you're curious on hydration and how you know you're hydrated, listen to one of our past episodes. There's a test you can take.
There is a test you could
Sleep.
take.
and
Sleep?
and we can't talk about that test without laughing. So you got to go find the episode if you want to get your laugh point for the day. Jacqueline, how do you know you're getting the required amount of sleep so that you can perform?
Okay, so I used to be able to do like, 5 hours of sleep, no problem. I was like, let's go. I don't need
Mhm.
sleep. Now I don't know. I'm 45. So maybe it's because I'm getting older. I need 7 hours. That's like my sweet spot. If I sleep longer, I'm groggy. If I sleep less, I don't want to get up. So if I go to sleep by, no later than 10 p.m., I'm waking up like usually 10 minutes before my alarm at 5 a.m. So that's how I know is like I'm waking up around the same time as my alarm would go off. If I'm snoozing it, I'm not getting enough.
Mhm.
Um, but it's 7 hours for me.
Mhm. I think you're like a lot of us that when we were younger, we could do okay with a little bit less sleep. I came up with this equation. I think every decade we need an hour more.
Ooh, I like that.
Every decade we need an hour more of sleep. We could do
Probably
the 5
true.
hours, right? Like I could do 5 hours in my 20s.
Yeah. 6
I
hours in our 30s, 7 hours in your 40s, 8 hours in your 50s. I like this. Okay.
So, okay, nutrition. How is Jacqueline making sure she's getting the point for nutrition?
So currently, my point, and this has changed, all of these have actually changed over time for me, but currently, if I get my point, it's because I entered my food into my Fitness Pal. That's it.
Mm,
It doesn't even matter, like, if I ate a croissant or whatever. It's just that I tracked it. Because I find that when I track, I automatically make better choices and I don't have to have like all these rules. And then the other part of it though is I prioritize protein. So I have like an amount of protein that I want to hit every day, that's in my Fitness Pal, and it tells me throughout the day like how much more I need. And so if I do that, then I'm getting my point.
that makes it super easy. Tracking is something that is not maybe enjoyable to a lot of people, but that MyFitnessPal app works very well, especially if you
Mhm.
have somebody that can help you dialing in your macros, meaning
Yeah.
carbohydrates, proteins, and fats on there. And if you're plugging your stuff in there, you're going to have a really good idea of where you're at with your calories and
Mhm.
all of those macros. So that's super smart. Just use that tracking system.
Yep.
All right, nutrition, we hit that. Supplements, that's a pretty straightforward one, but how do you know that you're hitting that point?
I mean, I took them or I didn't. So that
Yeah,
one's easy for me.
same.
Yeah.
Same. They're kind of right there. We take them or we don't. What about
Mhm.
influences? Before we hopped on this call, you shared a little story with me about your time without your phone. Tell me how you're making sure to get the
Mhm.
influence point of your.
So what happened was Ryan said, "Wow, you seem like you're in a really good mood and like energetic." I was texting him this morning a bunch of stuff about the podcast. And I said, "Ryan, I spent 3 days, 72 hours, zero phone." I remember even at one point staring at my husband's phone. I just wanted to pick it up because I wanted to see his phone. And you realize, wow, I really am very addicted. So, but these apps, they're all designed to keep you on them. Like that is
Right.
literally their point. So I gave up the phone for 72 hours. It was a hard reset. They say everything will start working right if you just unplug it for a while. So I did that. And now, so I have put some locks or on the screen time app, you can put limits. That's what it's called. Limits on
Mm,
on certain apps that you want on your phone. So it literally pulls up on my screen and it says like basically you're at your limit. Um,
smart.
and so I have put limits on for myself, but I realize, oh my gosh, when I get stressed, I scroll. It's like stress scrolling, and it's like
100%.
you're literally wasting your time and you're getting probably annoyed by
Yeah.
it. So I'm getting like in a worse mood, by looking at posts that I see, and I'm already stressed, so I'm getting like more mad. It's just like a bad combo for me. So right now, for me, influences is limiting my phone time.
That's such a smart point. I mean, just removing the phone, look at what it did. It just what it allowed you to do is be present with yourself and reinvigorated yourself. And I
Mhm.
mean, I didn't even know about the limits on the screen time app. I should look into that. So, good tip for our listeners. Screen time app was what it was called.
Yeah, well, it's not even an app. It's like a part of your iPhone setting. And I don't know about the Android people, but for iPhone, yeah. Ryan,
Good to
I
know.
finished 2 books, like, that I had started, and I just hadn't finished them, and they were kinda, like, weighing on me, like, almost like, "Oh, I really wanna finish that book," and it would always just stare at me, but I would never finish it, and I finished 2 books,
Right.
during that time too, so it was good.
So for our listeners, take a break from your phone. Take a
Mhm.
break from your phone. Put it away when you can. You
After you
might
listen to the podcast.
after you list. That's right, and share it and subscribe and like. Okay. So we've gotten rid of our negative influences. How are you getting
Mhm.
that journal point, Jacqueline?
My journal is back to the goals, so I write my goals. I write them in the form of an affirmation. And then I also I don't know what the free version offers, but I use the Growth Day app. So it's an app called Growth Day, and there's a daily fire. I listen to that, and then there's journal prompts in there that I use to fill out. And so it's just like right on your phone. So you do have to go on screen time for that one.
Yeah,
But I do that because I'm not like you, where I don't feel like I've really developed like the long time journaling habit like you have, but I want to be like you and Chris Stewart when I grow up. Like Chris Stewart, he's a president of place and he journals. He talks about it. He'll talk about like these, revelations and ahas that he's having from his journaling practice. And um, I want to, I want to do that. But so I'm starting out with these prompts that you
yeah,
just finish the sentence, and that works for me. And sometimes it'll like I'll get an idea and then I'll go write, that and that usually if I write something, it's coming from like, oh, I did those prompts and then it kind of got me thinking and now I'm writing. So
right, right.
yeah.
And I think the point is whether you have the prompts or you write in a notebook or you write on a computer. As long as you're doing something, do what works for you. Everybody's practice is going to be a little bit different. That's why we're doing this episode.
Yeah.
Jacqueline's practice is different from mine, but there's no right or wrong.
Hmm.
Okay, so we got the journal point. We got those journal prompts. I love that daily fire as well, the Growth Day app.
Hmm.
Okay, Jacqueline, how are you getting your mindfulness? We talked a little bit about it, but give us some examples on getting your mindfulness point.
So my one practice that I do every single day is something I learned from a coach that I worked with. I mentioned this on a previous episode. And she taught me how to, I will say, thaw out because I was so numb,
Hmm,
and how to be present in my body. And so it's a five senses exercise. And sometimes I do this if I'm on a walk, or I'll do this sitting out on the deck this time of the year in the morning before I do anything else. And it's just where you go through your five senses. So you just smell. What do I smell?
hmm.
Right? What do I see around me? What do I hear? Right? What do I touch? Maybe my kitty cat's, snuggling with me. What, and then taste, like maybe I'm having my coffee. Um, so it's the five senses, and it's a way to get present in your body. And it cultivates for me, it's like a grounding, and it cultivates, safety and grounding in my life to do that.
I hadn't actually heard about that. I don't know that we've talked about that. And it really makes sense because if you're tapping into each one of your five senses, you're probably going to be very present in that moment.
Hmm.
That's pretty interesting. I hadn't heard that. I like it. Okay.
Yeah, and I
So
pray. I pray. I mean, there's other things, but that one is like my non-negotiable that I do for mindfulness. Okay, gratitude.
gratitude.
Well, I think you guys do this too. Every day, our real estate team ends our meeting with gratitude.
Yep.
And so that's an easy one for me. And this morning and yesterday, I woke up and I was just reminding myself of how blessed I am. You know, I look at my calendar, I look at my meetings and the people I get to meet with, and I just feel so blessed that my day is what it is. Like I get to record this podcast with you. You know, I got to meet with the team this morning. Even when there's problems, you know, in real estate, there's a lot of problems. I'm still so blessed to do this for the opportunity because not everyone can. And so I'm just really trying to infuse gratitude throughout my day, you know, more and more.
Jacqueline, I think you used a very powerful word there that all of our listeners should really absorb. You didn't say you have to do any of this. You said you get to.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
and that alone to me shows somebody that really lives a life of gratitude. You don't have to go to work, you get to go to work. That's really
Hmm.
powerful just using that different word.
Yeah. Okay.
Laugh. All you gotta do is hop on this podcast and listen to us try to put some sentences together about how we know we're hydrated or not, and you'll get a good laugh in. But how if you forget to, or how do you make sure you get your laugh in?
I just don't have that problem, Ryan. I'm kind of a jokester. You know, I tease people. Like I just have fun. I laugh every single day at the office. Like I have so much fun with everyone. I don't know that there's a day goes by where I'm not laughing with someone. And if I, you know, forget, I have my husband, and I'll do a shout out to Suzanne Probasco too. She works with me. They send me, you know, funny those like videos on Instagram. They'll send
Yeah.
me those, and my husband and I send cat ones to each other now. But she'll send me funny things all the time. And so I just have a lot of people around me that make me laugh and that I love doing life with, and so it makes it easy to laugh.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, keeping those positive influences around you will help with that
Mhm.
laugh point.
Yeah.
You mentioned when you put your phone away, you read 2 books. When you don't have your phone put away, though, how are you
Mhm.
making sure you're still hitting your learning goal every day?
Well, I learn through that daily fire a lot. Like I learn a lot about myself and about people, but I'm always reading something, and I'm always right now I'm doing my pilot's thing, so I'm watching, you know, really exciting videos about like about the weather and
Yeah.
planes. So I right now I'm definitely learning constantly. I feel like our role in real estate, there's always something to learn. In leadership,
Mhm.
there's always something to learn. I wish I could just, you know, learn all day, just like read and research and um, but I love it. So I don't ever have a problem with that one either.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. That makes sense. I mean, learning is there's so much information out there. There's so
Yeah.
much valuable information at our fingertips these days. So it becomes
Mhm.
easier to be able to do it, especially when you're excited about life like you clearly are. Okay, so we've checked off most of these points here, but we got 3 points left to make sure that we have checked. We have
Okay.
hobbies, we have serve,
Yep.
and we have time. So you just mentioned like you're getting your pilot's license. Is that one of your hobbies? Is that how you're checking the box off some days?
Yep, that's my hobby. I also love paddleboarding. I love hiking. I Yeah, those are my main, and then my chickens. I still have my chickens. So,
Yeah, yeah.
although I don't do research on those as much anymore, but I love paddleboarding this time of the year.
Oh, yeah, it's perfect time for that.
Mhm.
All right, we got 2 more, Jacqueline. How are you making sure you're getting that serve point every day?
Serving is one I told you I used to never give myself this point, and then I talked to Ben Kinney a long time ago, and he was like, "You're overcomplicating serve. Like serving isn't just going to food bank, you know, to volunteer. It could be sending someone a compliment, like a text compliment. It could be helping someone, you know, it's just it doesn't have to be a huge thing. Like I brought, you know, eggs and cherries into the office the other day, right?
Yeah.
For the team. So I feel like that's a serve point. So it's basically just doing something for someone else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Doing something for someone else. There's so many different ways that we can do that. I love the idea of cherries and eggs to the office.
Yeah.
Lastly, Jacqueline, the 15th point on our 15-point plan is time. How are you
Mm-hmm.
protecting your time daily? Make sure you
Yep.
can check that point off.
My two things are reviewing my calendar and canceling things that I don't need to do, right? And then the screen time, that's my current, limit
Mm,
your screen time because I find it's like weird. I don't have time for anything, but yet I'll spend 2 hours, throughout
right.
the day scrolling, looking at those cat videos. So, like, it's like you do have the time, you're just like wasting it. And then, you waste a little bit at a time. It's just like money, right? You don't notice that, oh, I'm buying something for $10 here, $5 here, $20 here, but it all adds up. Same thing with your time. So it's just really looking
Yeah.
at my calendar and then not scrolling. Like, what can I do to really feed my soul? Um, and or do something productive. Because your body's not actually relaxing when you're scrolling. So you'd be
Right.
better off to do like a walk or read a book or to do something else that, fills your bucket than sit there and scroll and look at other people's lives. Like live your own life. Don't sit there and scroll and look at everyone else's. That's depressing.
It is, and like you said earlier, if we're depressed already and then we go scroll, we're
Yeah.
we're not going to help ourselves get out of that. So these
No.
were super helpful tips, Jacqueline. I think our listeners can take away a lot from each one of these points, and I'm sure that they could implement at least one, if not a handful of them. So that was a really good way for you to share with our listeners what is working for you. I took a ton of notes, so you gave me some ideas, and I think one thing that I heard was these things change.
Hmm.
These things change over time, and that's a good thing. And the more we bounce these ideas off other people, we might find, oh, you know what, that might work for me. So that was the goal behind this one. Hearing from Jacqueline and what is currently working for her on her 15-point plan journey. Next episode, I'll be sharing with you guys what works for me and what I'm doing to check each one of these points off. So as always, make sure you're going to winmakegive.com. There's a ton of other great podcasts in our network there. If you like this podcast, hit the like button and the share and subscribe button. Share it with your friends and family that would get some benefit from it. And of course, follow us on Instagram, Jacqueline Ray Smith and Ryan Park Greigg. Jacqueline, final words for our audience before we sign off.
Don't miss the next episode. I'm going to interview Ryan and find out what his points are. So share it with all your Spartan friends. No, I'm just kidding. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you on the next episode.
All right. Bye, everyone.